Hello and welcome to the first episode of Programming with the Penguineers. I'm Hunter Cooperman, and today I'm going to be showing you how to program the Rev 2-meter distance sensor. So the Rev 2-meter distance sensor, it's a pretty small contraption. It looks like this. So just a couple of specs. It has a measurement range of 5 centimeters to 200 centimeters, and it outputs this range in units of millimeters. So you can basically measure with pretty reasonable accuracy, in my opinion, the distance in millimeters. And additionally, it's an I2C sensor, which means it's going to plug into one of the 4 I2C ports on your Rev hub. And so basically what I'm going to teach you how to do first is how to hardware map the distance sensor. And so here we have this hardware map. We call it test hardware. And it's basically just the general skeleton of a hardware map. So it has all the parts that you need. And we even have one DC motor initialized called middle left. And we're just going to use it to practice. So the first thing that's important is that we have this class imported, distance sensor. And so if we go down here, right where we initialize all the motors and servos, we're just going to quickly do the same for the distance sensor. So we're going to go public distance sensor. We'll call this one range, and you can even set it to equals null should you so desire. And then the second part of hardware mapping it is that we're going to want to go here to where we define and initialize all the motors and servos. And again, we're just going to do the exact same thing that we do for the motors. So we're going to say range this time because that's the name of our distance sensor. And we're going to go hwmap.get distance sensor.class. And then after that, in quotation marks, we're going to put what we call it inside the configuration. So let's say that inside the configuration, we also call it range. And then always remember, don't forget your semicolon. And as you can see, if I build everything, it's going to come up with no errors, build successful. So now I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what you can do with this distance sensor reading. So the first one, I'm just in a simple teleop program, and I'm going to use the telemetry to tell the driver how far away the robot is from the nearest wall, the next robot, or just the nearest object in general. So as you can see, the telemetry works by you first add data, and then you update the telemetry. So what this would do, this little message right here, is it would print on the screen, say, and then hello driver as text. And so instead of that, let's tell it to tell the driver how far away the robot is from the nearest object. So let's say distance, and then we have to give this distance value. And so instead of doing it in quotations, we are going to give the physical variable value. And so this will be right here. So we have first our sensor name, which is range. Then we have get distance, which is telling it to get the distance. And then of course we have the unit, which is in millimeters. And so what this is going to do is it's just going to tell the driver how far away he is from the nearest object. And so the other example of how we use it is inside Autonomous. So in Autonomous, this year is the Skystone season, and we drive right up to the Skystones. And so what we do is we have a while loop, and then inside this while loop, we have while the distance is, let's say, less than 70 millimeters, then we want to set the power to go forward. So let's say we want to set our motor, which was called middle left, dot set power 1. And so this will just keep the motor going forward until the robot is less than 70 millimeters away from an object. And then after that, we could, I don't know, just tell the robot to stop. And then we could just set the power to 0 and it would stop. And so those are just a couple of the uses that you have for this new 2-meter distance sensor, or any of the distance sensors in general, because they all work by the same principle. And so thank you guys for listening in, and I hope you enjoyed and used this tutorial.